Your actual zoetrope project, okay? This here, we talked about them yesterday, this is an actual zoetrope. I looked it up the other day, okay? Now you can see it has very tiny little slits in it, okay? Lots of black, not a whole lot of the little white slits. The reason for that is we don't want a whole lot of light pouring through. We want it coming in through the top so it reflects out. But as far as our eye is concerned, whenever you look through here, you're only going to see a little flicker at a time, and that's what we want. As you guys get a chance, as you start to pull your supplies together and everything, I have a selection of different zoetrope slides that students have done in the past, as well as a couple that I've done. Feel free to plunk them on in. I'll show you real quickly on how to do that. Basically, when you guys are done, your project's going to look a lot like this, okay? You're going to have 12 frames per slip of paper, okay? 12 frames, which if you remember yesterday we talked, a normal animation is 24 frames a second. So if we were to take this into the computer, loop it once, you have 1 second of animation, okay? What you'll do is you'll take yours, you will put it in so that the pictures are on the inside, okay? You slip it in like so that it fits into the box, right in like that. Not rocket science, but definitely something that you want to know, okay? Just like that. And then simply give it a whirl and look through. And you'll be able to see your animation come to life. Remember, you want to look through the slits, not in the top. It won't work otherwise. I have the light over here. The light's going to make it that much more poignant. I have the light. The light's going to make your images pop that much more. Especially starting out with pencil, you guys are, you'll find that your images are a little bit blurred, a little washy. If you're having trouble with your pictures, if you can't quite see your pencil lines as you start to draw, feel free to go back and ink it in with any kind of marker. The reason I said any kind of marker is we're going to start off with this kind of sketch paper here, in essence. It's basically just receipt paper. What you're going to do is peel off your slip. I have a whole bunch. Use as much as you want, okay? What you're going to need to do, is take your strip. We want 12 frames, okay? So whenever you start unraveling this, you have to think to yourself, okay, we need 12 frames, and each one of these frames you want to be 2 inches long. You can use a ruler, or if you just take your thumbs and do like that, right about there, that's about 2 inches, okay? So you take your strip. Now, if I have 12 frames and each one is 2 inches long, that would mean I have how many inches? 24. Thank you, calculator. Ironically enough, I have this ruler. Guess how many inches it is? I planned this out. Okay. So all you're going to do is simply take your strip of paper, line it up on the ruler, and rip it off. It's that easy. So this is going to be kind of our practice paper, okay? Nothing fancy going on, just something to start getting an idea or a feel for how to do your animation, okay? So we break this down into 12 frames and we start to draw. Now yesterday we talked about how to actually do animation as far as involving squashing and stretching, all of that good stuff. We talked about anticipation. We talked about some of the other principles of animation. You're going to utilize those now. This right here, I just have a quick little doodle of how a ball bounces, right? So it comes in, you want to move it a little bit, and then so on. You can see the subsequent previous images over top. Now, doing a zoetrope is going to be difficult because you can't overlap your images. Okay? So that's on you guys. You just have to roll the punches. Whenever we do our flip book, it's going to be much easier because you're going to be able to overlay them and actually see where did you draw before. That technique is actually called onion skinning, okay, where you're able to see through the piece of paper. So remember that as you go along, you want your characters to squash and stretch. If you have something too still, it's going to be too static and very stiff and robotronic. We don't want that. We want it to be loosey-goosey. Okay? Okay, so far so good. So that being said, what you guys are going to do, like I said, is throw it out to you. Come on up. Get your receipt paper here, break it down into 12 frames, and start drawing. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want your subject to be, go for it. I would suggest starting out at least that you stick to basic shapes, stick figures, things like that. As you get more comfortable with it, feel free to become more advanced and do whatever the heck you want. Okay? Remember, 2 notes. 1, your project is going in a loop. That means your first image and your last image have to be sequential. They have to match up. This is going to repeat over and over and over again. So if you have a guy, let's say I had a couple students earlier who maybe you have a guy and he's doing a flip, right? So he's standing, he does a little flippy-do, and then he lands, right? That's great. So he lands and he starts at the exact same point. All of a sudden this guy's going to be doing flips over and over again, right? That would loop very well. Vice versa, if you have like a flower grow out of the ground and get nice and pretty, all of a sudden, if that's your last image, nice and pretty, and your first image is flat dirt, all of a sudden there's going to be a skip, like a pop, where your flower comes out and then it magically disappears again. We don't want that. So maybe your flower comes out and it wilts and dies or something. Whatever you want to do to get it back to that starting point. Okay? You only have 12 frames to work with. Tomorrow, I will give you a finished piece of paper that's very nice, it's better quality. We're going to transfer your doodle onto your sketches, onto that nicer paper. It's going to be inked in, it's going to be colored in, and then we're going to take it to the zoetrope. When everything's said and done, we're actually going to scan them using the Elmo, one frame at a time. All of them are going to be put into one big file. I'm going to loop them through and make a huge animation so that the last week of school, we'll have all of this stuff and we can watch all of our animation. Okay? That's the plan. Now that's the zoetrope. Remember, we have today and tomorrow. Not a whole lot of time because we want to focus some time onto our flip books as well. But do whatever you need to do. Definitely check out the zoetrope and practice it up a little bit. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Remember, whenever you begin your animation, whether it be with the flipbook or the zoetrope, to not move your image too much. You want to actually be able to overlay them. This is called onion skinning. After you've gone through and you've worked with your zoetrope and you've put your entire film strip in and made sure that it works, then you're going to go through and begin to work on your flipbook. To do your flipbook, all you're simply going to need is a bunch of Post-it notes. You're going to have a minimum of 24 Post-it notes. You can do more if they're available. You'll just peel them off like so. Don't worry if they start to lose their stickiness. We're going to re-glue them on in a bit. Then from there, your job should be a lot easier than with the zoetrope because you're going to be able to overlay each one of these images and you'll see right through them. So you'll be able to move your image just a little bit. This should be an easier process, like I said, than the zoetrope. You are required, when everything is said and done, to go through and ink them in as well as color them in. But when everything's said and done, you're going to be able to see your flipbook and make it come to action. Before you start to glue these together, however, I do want you to scan them onto the computer one frame at a time. That goes for the flipbook as well as your zoetrope. Then I will go through and actually stream them together so at the end of the year we can have ourselves a nice film festival along with some free popcorn. When you are done with that, you can choose to splay your images out like this. I kind of have it where it's a little bit offset so my fingers can kind of get in there and let it go. Or you can choose to stack them up just like you normally would with a normal Post-it note. If you've lost the stickiness or if your stickiness is all on the wrong sides, all you're going to do is take one of the glue sticks, reapply some glue, and stick it back together. Now here's the catch. When everything's said and done, the glue will harden, but it's still not permanent. We want to keep these things for a long time. So all you're going to do then is take some white glue, it works the best. You're actually going to put just a little right on the edge. You'll smear that around, make it nice and thin, but that will dry rock hard so that you can keep this flipbook for a long time and show your friends and family what you can do. For my Art 2s, instead of doing the zoetrope and the flipbook, you'll be starting with the zoetrope, but then you're going to end with a stop motion animation. That's clay animation if you've been following along. To start out, what I need you to do is to come up with a story, and ergo a storyboard. Whenever you're working with your storyboard, I want you to think about not only the characters and the actual story itself, but also how you're going to design the background. An example of what a good storyboard would look like is one here. Follow along as you can keep going with what's happening with this silly character as he tries to swat away this bumblebee. Did you notice how quick the storyboard went by? That's because it had a limited number of frames. We're only going to be filming for one day, so make sure that you have enough time and enough of your story to fill that, but not too much. Another thing is to think about your background. Remember, we're only going to be using cardboard and construction paper, so you have to work within your limitations. When everything is said and done, you're going to need one turnaround per character, as well as one emotion sheet per character. Think about your storyboards, about 10, maybe 20 frames. think about your backgrounds, and then of course think about making your characters out of clay. Then from there, we'll begin filming, one frame at a time.